So here's a question I've been thinking about a lot recently as a documentary filmmaker. Why do humans like story? Like, what about narrative draws us in so much? So today in this video, we're going to delve into 3 reasons why humans like story. I think the first reason that we are drawn to story as humans is that it is the framework that we make sense of the world with. It is the lens that we use to make sense of the world. Here's an example. When you're growing up, you probably have early memories of reading a story that taught some kind of morality. For instance, share with your neighbor, be kind to people. All of the framework of our growing up years probably had some element of story. So not only is it how we make sense of the world, but it's also something we've been exposed to for our entire lives. That's how we learn things. And so I think story, no matter what culture you grow up in, whether even if we didn't have a written language, story goes back as far as we can remember. Traditions, morality, all of those things are passed on through story format. And I think that's the first reason why stories are so important to humans. Piggybacking off that first point of why humans like stories, I think the second reason really is that humans crave stories. We like stories because they bridge unbridgeable gaps. So for instance, I work in documentary film, and creating stories that people empathize with is a very important thing for me. Often I work on human interest type documentary. One documentary that I directed back a couple years ago is called Pulled from the Burning. And it is the story of a pastor who is the only survivor of a plane crash and how that impacted his life and really changed his life. He was burned on a third of his body, 3rd-degree burns. He's missing fingers. His bones on his legs were burned so badly that they turned black. He was told he'd never walk again. And he overcame that, but he had both a physical story arc, meaning he, got better, right? He overcame that challenge. And then he also had a spiritual and mental story arc. And I think that often what makes story so powerful and why we're drawn to it is because though I can't connect and I can't fathom the pain that he went through as he experienced those burns and as he experienced being the only survivor. All of the other people died. I can empathize with the feelings of sadness and depression that he felt on a very small level, because I have experienced loss and I've experienced sadness. And so I can see if my version of that is a very small version, what was his version. So we understand the world around us, but we also connect with other people and connect with their life through story. All right. So we've talked about how we connect with others through story. We've talked about how we make sense of the world through story. But I think the third reason why humans crave stories is because we're part of the greatest story. And that is that we are created in the image of God. God is the ultimate storyteller, story creator, and we are part of the ultimate story. As a Christian who believes the Bible, I read in the Bible and it says God created the world. He created a sinless, perfect world, and we messed it up. There's conflict. But God became the hero, right? He sent his son Jesus to die on the cross. There is the hero of the story. He died on the cross to take the punishment of our sin so that we can be restored to him. And that is the conflict and resolution that we always crave. And so I think if we as Christians look at story through that mindset, through that lens, every story that's good will follow that general concept, which is the ultimate story. That's the biggest, most exciting, most important story of all time. And I think that is ultimately the biggest reason why humans are drawn to story. Now, I don't mean this video to dive super deeply into the theological aspects of story, because I think that could be a very interesting topic for somebody that's way more learned on that than myself to discuss. But I think that ultimately, as a Christian, these are the 3 reasons why I think humans crave story, why we need story, and ultimately why story is the most important aspect of your video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope that you use these 3 elements in your next story, in your next video, in your next documentary, whatever you're working on. I hope they help you as you do the pre-production, the hard work of creating story.